Hey guys, so today I'm going to go over my top 20 speaker brands. These are going to be mostly bookshelf speakers. I know speakers can mean a lot of different things, right? To some people, it might mean Bluetooth speakers, portable speakers, giant floor standing speakers. To me, this is going to be mostly speakers that are going to be part of the bookshelf speaker category. Bookshelf speakers are basically the typical speaker you would see. I would say in like a hi-fi setting. So you basically have kind of like a smallish speaker that you can fit onto a desktop or a bookshelf, as the name implies. So, anyways, all the companies that I'm going to name in this list are going to be companies that make bookshelf speakers, either active ones or passive ones. Active meaning that they contain a built-in amplifier, and passive meaning that they don't. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much what I'll be doing today, and this ranking it's just going to be based on my personal preference. I know ranking like something as subjective as speaker brands, there's no such thing as an objective ranking when it comes to this. So, don't be people don't be offended, is what I'm saying. If your favorite speaker brand is low on my list or isn't on my list, that doesn't mean that it isn't good or anything. It's just probably means that it wasn't my preference in some way. So yeah, we can go over this list. It's just going to be my subjective ranking based on what I like. For me, I usually go for a combination of value and performance. So like basically how much do you get out of the speaker for the price. So yeah, let's go over my top 20 favorite speaker brands. All right, so before I start off this list, there's a few honorable mentions I would like to make. The first is Buchart Audio. Buchart Audio is a Danish brand from Denmark, and I think they make some pretty well-performing speakers. What's interesting about their speakers is the way that the tweeter looks is actually quite interesting. So if you look at something like the A500 here, yeah, you can see that there's this giant waveguide here, so that's pretty interesting. I mean they have your standard woofer here, but having this like giant waveguide, it's a pretty interesting aesthetic. You got that standard Scandinavian type design that you would see. It's very minimalistic, which I like. So I do like their design. They do seem to be quite performant. Read some reviews and everything. They're just a little bit too expensive. I mean, just look at these prices, right? A little bit too expensive. These are their active. You can look at their passive speakers as well. Yeah, still kind of expensive. I would say a little bit overpriced. This is kind of a newer speaker company. I think they started within the last 10 years, maybe. Maybe a little bit older than 10 years, but yeah. I do like their speakers. Would love to try them out at some point, but they are a little bit too expensive for me. But I do have to mention them because I do think they are well performant, and I do like how they look. They are definitely have a unique look to them. Another one I want to mention is Neat Acoustics. Neat Acoustics is a speaker brand. It's a British brand that started in the, I think, late 80s or early 90s. I actually have a Neat Acoustic speaker. I have the Ministra. That's this one right here. What's special about their speakers is that they have this isobaric loading design. So isobaric means they actually have a second woofer placed in the cabinet that you don't see. It's invisible. It's placed inside the cabinet to kind of increase the bass response. So they have basically two woofers inside of the cabinet, which is pretty unique. Don't see many isobaric designs, but Neat Acoustics is one of them. The reason why I am not putting them on my top 20 list is because they're really expensive. I have a Neat Acoustics speaker, but it's only because I got it at half price. I would never pay the full price for them because they are pretty expensive. They're made in the UK, they're not made in China. So that's part of the reason. But yeah, they're well built, well performing speakers. They sound really good. They don't actually test these speakers up to some kind of measurement or spec. So people from Audio Science Review might not like that, but they test them just based on their musical performance on just the ear test basically is how they test them. And I think that's the right way to go about it. I think hearing is a very like sound is a very subjective thing. I don't want to go just based off measurements. So Neat doesn't really care too much about the measurements. It's more about subjective hearing. But yeah, they're a little bit too expensive as well. If you can get them on sale like I did, then sure, that's a good recommendation. But normally they are a bit expensive, even if they do have some cool technology in it, the isobaric loading. Right. Another honorable mention is just another company with yeah, with amazing, like, well, interesting technology is Magnapan. So Magnapan is they've been around for quite a while, since the I think early 70s. They've been around, so they make very interesting. As you can see, they make very interesting speakers. They're unlike any other speakers I've ever seen. These are actually, they're not electrostatic. They're called magnostatic. Um, and they use basically this thin wire of attached to mylar, I think. And yeah, this is a very interesting type of design, and I have to just mention Magnapan because even though they are quite expensive, they are quite unique. There's no other speaker company like them. They make these very, very unique looking speakers. Yeah, so they're not electrostatic. They're just their own proprietary technology, which I've never seen anyone else use. So yeah, they're expensive. You know, that's one reason they're not on the list, but I do have to mention them because they have really, really cool technology. I've never listened to these before. Would love to listen to them at some point. But yeah, Magnapan, I have to mention them because they do have some innovative technology to them. Another honorable mention, I think that has to be on my list. I'm not going to recommend it. It's not on my top 20, but I do have to mention them, is Bang& Olufsen. So this might be actually a well-known speaker company to some of you guys. They're from Denmark. They're a Danish company. They were started, I think, in the 1920s. So they've been around almost 100 years. So they have quite a lot of history. And I have to mention them because their speaker designs are pretty cool looking. I mean, just take a look, right? They have the most interesting designs I've seen, both in their speaker selection and their headphones and other things. They just have a very unique design. It's not just the typical Scandinavian design, but they have, yeah, just their aesthetic is so unique. Like this one is like, it looks like a air conditioner, I guess, but it's a speaker, right? And then these things are just almost like pieces of art. Um, yeah, I mean, this I guess they still belong in this list because they do make bookshelves, and these I guess would be considered bookshelves, even though they're like very, very exotic looking. But yeah, these are pretty interesting looking speakers. You can take a look at. I mean, this is a crazy looking speakers, right? I mean, oh man, $20,000 a set. Okay, so the reason why they're not on my list, but I do have to mention them, is because although they have very, very unique, cool looking designs, they're very expensive. Just look at this one, $58,000. I mean, yeah. No matter how cool a speaker looks, I'm not going to pay $58,000 for a pair of speakers. They do look really, really cool though. So I do have to give props to Bang& Olufsen. They make some really cool, eye-catching designs, but they're super expensive. Yeah, like even this speaker here that's just meant to stay at home is more like a Bluetooth speaker. This sits at home. It's $3,000. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like soundbar is 2,000 bucks. I mean, this bookshelf speaker is 5,000. Yeah, I don't think I can recommend them based on the price, but they are really, really cool. So I have to mention them. They're very cool looking. So another honorable mention, I will go to Golden Ear. Golden Ear is a brand created by Sandy Gross, who is the same guy who co-founded Polk Audio and then Definitive Technology as well. So he's founded many different brands. Golden Ear is his very last or most recent brand. Back in actually I think it was founded in 2010, so not that long ago. Anyways, they have a whole product series. They have 4-inch tower speakers. I think they mostly focus on tower speakers actually, so you can see a lot of tower speakers here, and only 2 bookshelves. So they don't have like a huge product line or anything, but I do find them interesting still, just because their design is very interesting. So the BRX is their bookshelf speaker. Actually, it has some pretty cool technologies. It has a folded ribbon tweeter right here, and it has passive radiators actually, which is not something that's very common in bookshelf speakers usually. So in general, I think people do like Golden Ear products, even if they don't necessarily measure well. But people do like them in terms of the actual sound performance, in case of how much enjoyable the sound is. The only thing is they do tend to be a little bit expensive, and I do think they're a little bit overpriced. So pretty similar to Neat Acoustics as well. Why they're honorable mention is because I do think they're a bit overpriced. So yeah, all Golden Ear products, even though a lot of people love them and they do look nice, I guess. Yeah, I think they are a little bit overpriced for the performance that you do get, but they look pretty cool, and they're definitely like still nice sounding speakers and everything. But yeah, like I'm not sure. Like just like with the Neat, I would get it if it was on discount. If it was discounted, sure, go for the Golden Ear, but I would not pay full price for these. I think they're a little bit overpriced at the full retail price of those. But they look really cool, interesting aesthetic, and they do have some interesting technology baked into them. Just think they're a little bit, a few $100s too expensive for me. Like I think you can get similar performance out of a Martin Logan, like one of a cheaper, like Martin Logan, like what these are $800 each, right? Martin Logan, you can probably get a pair for $1,000. This pair is 1,600. Yeah, you can probably get a similar performing pair with a fold-in motion tweeter, which is very similar to this fold-in ribbon AMT tweeter. Doesn't have the passive radiators, but I think you can get a similar performing Martin Logan speaker for, yeah, about $600 less than this one. But anyways, just an example. That's why they're honorable mention. I do have to mention them though because I do like how their products look. I do think they have some cool tech in them, just a little bit overpriced. I do have to mention them because, yeah, they are cool looking. They do have some technology inside of them. People do like them, but just a little bit overpriced. All right, so another honorable mention is Quad, and I want to mention Quad because they're a very historic speaker company. They're a British company. They date back to the 1930s, so they're one of the oldest companies in this video. And the reason I have to mention them is because they made a lot of historic advancements in speaker technology, particularly when it comes to electrostatic speakers. They were the very first company to make electrostatic speakers, I think, in the 1950s. So electrostatic speakers still are not very common, but Quad was one of the speaker companies that really pushed the envelope when it came to technology. So the fact that they came out with electrostatic speakers, which are still very like that's not a common speaker technology that you find today. The fact that they came out with it back in the 1950s and like raised the bar for speaker performance. So just like Magnepan, right? I mentioned Magnepan because they have very unique speaker technology. Same thing with Quad. Only that Quad's products uh, they do have a larger range of products than Magnepan does, and yeah, that's why I still have to mention them. However, I don't have them on my list because honestly, I think for the price that they're charging is a little bit overpriced. I think compared like you can probably get a lot of other speaker brands around this price range that have a little bit better performance. Maybe doesn't have the heritage of a quad. So like this S1, for example. This costs about 750, maybe $800. So it's a good price. I'm not saying it's like, very overpriced or something, but at this price point, you can probably find a Martin Logan that might perform better. Maybe even other British speaker companies that are going to be on later on this list. But yeah, I mean, there's so much competition in the speaker space now. So yeah, for this having like a this has a true ribbon tweeter. Yeah, so this one has a true ribbon tweeter for under $1,000 is still very, very good. So don't get me wrong. I think this is not like the most overpriced speakers, or I wouldn't even mention them, right? Like, I would still say like Harbith or Spendor, like those products, like that's very, very overpriced, and that's why they're not even going to be on my honorable mentions, right? Harbith and Spendor, they just they're hand built in England, and they're basically like I'll mention them later on the list when I get to PMC, but yeah, like there's way more overpriced speakers than Quad, but yeah, I think for this price point, I think probably Martin Logan would probably offer a similar performance or better. But still, I have to mention the Quad S1 here, which is, still decent, pretty decent speaker still, and Revela 1, which is their higher end model right now, 6.5-inch woofer with a true ribbon tweeter. This is over $2,000, so I think at this price point, you're probably looking at competing with a lot of the other British brands that I mentioned already. But you can probably find something maybe even better performing by Acoustic Energy or by Neat Acoustics even, that I mentioned already. So yeah, to over $2,000, $2,500. I think at this price point, yeah, you can probably get a similar design from Neat Acoustics, but Neat Acoustics has an isobaric like design, so they have another woofer in between. And then if you get something from PMC Audio, they also have a transmission line design. So I think for this price point, there are better choices. However, Still got to mention this because this is a really beautiful looking speaker and a true ribbon tweeter and everything. And I think this might be made in the UK. Look at this craftsmanship. If they're made in the UK, then yeah, it's still pretty good choice. Yeah, still beautiful looking speaker. So that's why I still gotta put this in a honorable mention. But the one that they're known for is the ESL series. This is the electrostatic series. So all the electrostatic speakers are very expensive. So something like even the cheapest model, the ESL 2812, is still thousands of dollars. So it's still very expensive, but this is basically what Quad is known for. So Quad's using the Mylar diaphragm. So it's kind of similar yet different than Magnepan. However, this is what they're known for, just like with Magnepan is the electrostatic stuff. So a little bit different though. Magnepan uses a slightly different technology, but I guess they have similarities as well. And the ES92, oh, that one's coming soon. But yeah, they're known for their electrostatic speakers, so the ESL series. But these are all very expensive speakers. So yeah, if you have thousands of dollars, then you can check them out, but I think for most people, they probably won't have enough to check this out. I think their most direct competition is not just Magnepan, but Martin Logan as well, which will appear later on this list. But I think Martin Logan's offerings, to me, offer a bit better value. So while Quad is still very good, so yeah, I still got to mention them. They're still very good. I like their design aesthetic. I love their history. Um, and the performance is good. I just think that there's better options for each of these speakers. Like I'd probably just get a Martin Logan instead of the electrostatic stuff. The S1, I mean, there's a lot of competition around this space by Focal and by KEF and by Monitor Audio, even a lot of other British companies, right, like Bowers and Wilkins. So yeah, a lot of other speaker companies competition for the S series, and then for the Revela series, I think Need Acoustics is probably their closest competition, or PMC maybe. Or if you really want to get up, yeah, Harbreth and Spendor if you want to go for the near field stuff. Z series, I take a look at that. Um, I think even for some of this stuff, I think so Aperion Audio, I think the name is. They're like an American speaker company. I heard their speakers are pretty good. Have pretty much similar technology and the similar finish as well. Another one is the Philharmonic, which is the name of an orchestra, but they actually make their own speakers or branded their own speakers, and I heard they were pretty good too. So yeah, I haven't heard them, but I have read reviews of them, and they seem to use similar technology and similarly well built and similar price range. So just wanted to mention those as well. And again, nothing on Quad. The thing is, I still put them in an honorable mention. I'm not saying that they're super overpriced or anything. It's like a little bit overpriced, but they're not super overpriced. Like say, like Wilson Audio is an example of an audio brand. I think that's super overpriced. Like Wilson Audio's products are just really, really expensive. Harbreth and Spendor, which I mentioned before, I think are overpriced. To an extent, I think some of Sonus Faber stuff is overpriced too. That's an Italian speaker company. Burmester, I think, is for sure overpriced. That's like a German company. Yeah. So, anyways, there's more overpriced brands, which is why they're not on this list. But Quad, I think, does deserve to be on this list as an honorable mention. Anyways, with a similar design. But yeah, Quad, I do have to mention because they are a historic British speaker company. They're really innovative in the field of electrostatic speakers. So kind of similar to Magnepan and eventually Martin Logan. That's why I had to mention Quad. So, yeah, very historic speaker company. I had to respect them with their innovations in electrostatic design, and I still do like their speakers. That's why they're still as an honorable mention on my list, but I just think that there are a little bit better offerings from other speaker manufacturers, which you'll find out later on in my actual top 20 list. So, anyways, still got to mention them, and of course, the amps as well. They also make a lot of amps. And their amps are also, I feel the same way for their amp technologies. I just feel like there's probably something that better at each of those price points, even from other British companies, because there are a lot of British hi-fi companies, right, like Rega or Arcam or Cyrus or yeah, there's just a lot of British hi-fi companies. Nime, right, is another one that probably compete in the higher end. But even within their own parent company, they have Leak Audio, which I think looks better when it comes to amplifiers. So I'd probably take a Leak Audio amplifier over a Quad amplifier. They have very similar specs, and they're the same parent company. Just I think the Leak Audio looks a bit better. But you'll hear about that in my amplifier ranking video, not this video. Anyways, guys, Quad, have to mention them because they are very historic, and I do think that a lot of their current offerings still are pretty decent, just not necessarily the best value at that price point. And then finally, another one of my honorable mentions is going to be Tecton. Tecton, as you guys can tell from the appearance of the speakers, also looks really unique. I don't want to trigger anyone who has trypophobia or anything, but you can tell their speakers are very unique. They have, yeah, a whole bunch of tweeters. Like, just look at their designs, a whole bunch of tweeters in them. Now I'm not gonna like fully recommend them or anything, like, because they do get some pretty good reviews, but I think they're a little bit polarizing as well. Some people don't like them. They're really speakers you have to audition, I think, because there are, yeah, some people don't like them. Some people really swear by them. Yeah, it's pretty polarizing. And the design is polarizing too, which is another thing I don't want to exactly recommend them and not going to be on my list. Because then I wouldn't say like, okay, they do have expensive speakers, as you guys can tell. Um, I mean, this is just a crazy looking speaker. And what's their like? I just want to see what their cheapest speakers would be. So probably would be yeah, Dynamite or Mini Lore modded. Okay, so yeah, again, it's kind of expensive, and also the design is not for everyone. So that's why it's not going to be on my list. But I do have to mention them because they're really unique looking. I haven't tried them before, but like to try them out at some point. They're an American speaker company, and definitely has some pretty unique designs here. By the way, with any of Tecton speakers, you can customize them quite a bit. So yes, they are quite expensive, but to be fair, unlike a lot of other speaker companies, you can customize it right on the website here. Different colors or even a custom color. You can upgrade your package here, choose the impedance, the grills, and everything. Like all this is, yeah, it's almost like like building a car, like this. That's pretty cool, that you can customize so much right on the website. So I have to mention that about Tecton as well. They do let you customize the speakers quite a bit. So Tecton's an American speaker company. I haven't tried them before. Would love to try them out sometime, but I don't have any local dealers near me in Vancouver. And yeah, just have to mention them, even though, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend them for everyone because of the design, which is very polarizing. There's a few other speaker companies I want to mention. Actually, two other ones that are pretty historic, and they aren't on this list because honestly, they don't make too many products anymore. One is Altec Lansing. Altec Lansing is a very historic speaker company that dates back all the way back to 1920s. However, unfortunately, they pretty much they're pretty much gone. So after the 2000s, I think the 2000s were the last time they were relevant. But after the 2000s, yeah, the brand basically just disappeared. But they used to be on a lot of laptops and computer speaker systems and stuff. But Altec Lansing used to be one of the big brands back in the day. But unfortunately, they've all but disappeared now. Another one's Harman Kardon. You guys might know Harman Kardon, actually. They're still there because they still make a lot of car audio systems. They also make systems for laptops as well. But the reason why I don't put Harman Kardon on the list is that for standalone speakers, they don't really make too many standalone speakers anymore. So yeah, most of the Harman Kardon stuff is just collaboration stuff that they do, like for laptops or computers and for cars. So they don't really make too much of their standalone speakers anymore like they used to. But yeah, that's also a historic brand dating back to 1950s, so I have to mention them as well. By the way, Harman International, which is a parent group company, owns a lot of subsidiary audio companies, including JBL, including Altec, not Altec Lansing, but they own JBL, AKG, Infinity, Lexicon. They Mark Levinson. They own a whole bunch of subsidiary companies that people might be familiar with. Yeah, but Harman itself, Harman Kardon, doesn't produce many dedicated speakers anymore. So yeah, these days they just do like collaborations with other types of technology. So that's why they're not on this list. Because yeah, this list is about bookshelf speakers. Okay, so let's get on to my top 20 now. So my number 20 is going to be Paradigm. Paradigm is a Canadian speaker brand. They make a whole range of speakers. They make these are their flagship speakers, Persona, and these can be tens of thousands of dollars, but they go all the way down to yeah, to the Monitor series and Premier series. Yeah, the Monitor series are the most affordable. The Premier series very competitive with a lot of other speaker brands. And in general, Paradigm performs fairly well. I'm just not like a huge fan of Paradigm. Like yeah, because like they are made in Canada, which is nice. Well, not every. I don't think every speaker is made in Canada, but definitely their higher end speakers are made in Canada. Um, and they're decently well performing. It's just that I don't think they're necessarily the best option for the price, but do still have to put it on this list because they do make a nice variety of speakers. So yeah, they make a whole range, Monitor series, Premier series, Founder series, and Persona series. They make a whole range of speakers for everyone. It's just I don't necessarily would recommend them as the best speaker for the price. They're decent, but I've never really heard anyone say, oh, you know, if you're comparing Paradigm to a bunch of other speakers, oh, the Paradigm one is the absolute best performing one. Yeah, I'm not sure. They do have access to the Canada's what is it? The National Research Council, I believe they have access to that and all their technologies and stuff like that. So there is that, and they pair particularly well with other Canadian brands like Anthem. But yeah, I think there are probably better speaker brands, performing speaker brands for the price, at least for me. I know some people like Paradigm a lot, but yeah, for me, I think there's better brands for me, but still on this list, right? Because they have a nice wide array of speakers. Okay, so number 19 is going to be Polk Audio. Polk Audio, as well, I would say it's similar to the Paradigm, where they do have a large array of speakers. They don't quite go up as high as Paradigm does, but they do have a lot of affordable speakers. So I think their Legend series is their top of the line series, but they do have more. Let's see. Yeah, they do have more affordable speakers too. So Polk Audio is an American company that started in the 70s. They're more, I would say, even more of a mainstream brand than a lot of other brands on this list. Like you will find Polk Audio sometimes in Best Buy and stuff like that. And they are good, but again, not the best performing for the price, but they are generally good. So they're still going to make my list. They have, you know, nice, decent technologies, but I just do think that there's better choices usually. But you have to put Polk Audio on this list because I would say in general they make decent performing speakers for the price, and they are reasonably affordable usually. So yeah, Polk Audio is going to be on this list. And number 19. Okay, so number 18 is going to be Revel speakers, and Revel is actually a Harman brand. So Harman Kardon, Harman International owns Revel, it owns Lexicon, it owns AKG, it owns whole bunch of other brands. Oh, JBL as well. Yeah, so it owns a whole bunch of different brands, and it's actually now owned by Samsung. So Revel's technically a Samsung brand now. But anyways, Revel makes a whole bunch of different speakers. This is, I think, one of their main speakers, most popular speakers, is their Performance BE series. And they're most well known for having a lot of technology in order to make their speakers perform and measure very well. So they're a very scientific brand, I guess, because a lot of, I guess if you guys are aware of Audio Science Review, they do a lot of different reviews based on measurements, and Revel is just technically one of the best measuring speakers. They've always measured very, very well, and can look at the different products here. So they have the Ultima series, which is their top of the line series, and the Performa BE and the Performa 3. And yeah, like all these speakers generally perform very well. The only thing about Revel that I don't like as much is that they are almost too focused on the measurements and in the performance rather than on the actual listening experience. So they're kind of the opposite of Neat Acoustics in a way. Like Neat is more focused on the listening experience rather than the measurements. And Revel is focused more on the measurements rather than the listening experience. So they're almost too much focused on the measurements, so more so than the actual listening experience. But I do have to appreciate them for their technology and everything. Of course, they perform very well. They're not the cheapest speakers. They're not the most expensive either. So they're just kind of in between. Generally, I think they're pretty good value. I also find these speakers a little bit boring looking. That's another thing. They just look kind of boring to me. So that's another thing. Yeah, about them. Otherwise, I have no hesitation to recommend Revel in general. It's just that, yeah, I think for me they're just a little bit boring, and they don't have as much character to them. Maybe because they're focused so much on the scientific results of their speakers. But yeah, I think overall they're good speaker company. That's why they're on this list. But I'm not going to rank them too high because I don't think that they have as much character to them. Personally, right, I don't like them as much because I want my speakers to have more of an interesting characteristic. Like I don't necessarily care about how well they measure, but just by their design, appearance, and how well I enjoy them personally. So anyways, maybe I'm just basing on my more subjective criteria, but I understand a lot of people love Revel, but for me, I think there's a lot of other speaker brands that take over them. But anyways, they're still on this list, number 18. Oh, and Revel is an American company. I think they were established in the 1990s. So, yeah, they got some history behind them. But they're not like a really old brand or anything. But yeah, I think they're mostly focused on the scientific measurements of their speakers. That seems to be their main priority. Number 17 on this list is going to be Kanto. Kind of on an opposite end of the spectrum compared to Golden Ear. Actually, Kanto is a Canadian company. Kanto is actually so I live around Vancouver, Canada. Kanto is actually pretty local. I believe they're based near Coquitlam, actually. So they're actually around my area, which is which is just a cool fact. Doesn't influence my ranking here, but I do have to put Kanto on this list because they make really affordable speakers and pretty nice performing speakers for the price, I'd say. So you can check out their selection here. Generally, they're not that expensive. Their most expensive is the Took, which I actually did a review on my channel before. The Took's a pretty nice speaker for the price as well because they do have air motion transformers for $800. Having air motion transformers is in an active speaker is actually pretty unheard of. The competition, like if you look at all the other active speakers that compete with the Kanto at this price range, like Klipsch or Triangle or Q Acoustics, Audio Engine, maybe, like if you look at the competition or even Edifier, right? Just look at their competition. Generally, I think Kanto products compete very well with the competition. And the Took is just you don't see anything else at this price. I think maybe Edifier has a model that competes with Took. I would probably put Edifier on this list too, around the same area, but to me, Kanto and Edifier are both pretty good. So I just chose Kanto because their Edifier is actually Chinese and Kanto is Canadian, so I just went with Kanto. But both Edifier and Kanto, they produce really nice speakers for the price. So yeah, if you can find they're especially for active speakers. If you guys are looking for active speakers, you don't want to deal with buying an additional amplifier. Kanto is generally a pretty nice choice. Fairly affordable. But even their top of the range model, they took $800, is not too expensive compared to some of the other speaker brands on this list. I mean, when you're talking about audiophile stuff, speakers go pretty high end. This is not that expensive for a top of the line speaker, and it has an air motion transformer as a tweeter. That's pretty good. And then if you don't want to spend that much money, you have a lot of other options too. So in general, I think Kanto pretty good for the price. It's just that they don't have any super high end stuff, so that's why they're on number 17. But if you're looking for a nice active speaker, yeah, they're pretty good. Forgot to mention that Kanto, they do have some cool looking speaker designs. I would say this one, the one where it's kind of like a center channel speaker, but that's actually a powered bookshelf speaker. That's pretty interesting. But for the most part, I think they're rather bland designs. They do have passive speakers as well, but they're mostly well known for their active speakers, and they do have a subwoofer, which I do have. Actually, I have their subwoofer is pretty good. All right, number 16 is going to be JBL. Now, JBL is a very historic U.S. company. They made speakers for a very long time, since the 1940s. And it's actually the founder of JBL, I believe, is James Lansing, who also founded Altec Lansing as well. Now, Altec Lansing doesn't really make much speakers anymore, so I'm not going to put them on this list, but JBL still makes speakers. They've been making them for decades, and we can see like a wide variety of selection here. So JBL generally has speakers for everyone. You can definitely tell people might know JBL more from their Bluetooth speakers these days. They make Bluetooth speakers, they make sound bars. That's probably more what they're known for. But their bread and butter that they used to focus on, like for decades, was their passive loudspeakers. So yeah, you see their towers, their monitors. There are a lot of different. You see a lot of different companies, venues, recording studios use JBLs as studio monitors and stuff like that. That's because JBL's just been around for a long time. They're good performing speakers. Um, Generally well priced as well. I would say like kind of like Polk Audio in the sense that they're they're not like the best performing necessarily. They don't go super high end. But they're just good for the price, and you'll find lots of them. They have a wide range for everyone. So it's almost like yeah, it's pretty similar to Polk Audio, honestly. Like in terms of their offerings, like they'll have offerings that are affordable, decent performing. They won't go super high end. Like Polk Audio doesn't go super high end. Neither does JBL. They don't compete with, say, Paradigm's Persona series. They don't compete with that. They won't compete with obviously stuff like really expensive stuff like Wilson speakers or anything. They won't compete with that, or Magnapans, but. But hey, I think if you're on a if you're on a budget, then you could do a lot worse than JBL. I think they're fairly solid. Right. So number 15 is going to be Audio Engine. Now, Audio Engine is an American company that makes a lot of affordable bookshelf speakers, mostly powered bookshelf speakers. So I guess you can kind of consider them kind of competing in the same space as Kanto or Edifier. But generally, I ranked Audio Engine a little bit higher because honestly, I like their selections a bit better. So their selection of offerings, you can take a look. I think they look better than Kanto selections. So that's just me, and they also have a little bit more selections going on here. So in general, Audio Engine gives you pretty good value for the money. They sound pretty good. So if you're looking for like a nice, affordable, powered bookshelf speaker system, Audio Engine's generally a good choice. And I would recommend Audio Engine a little bit over Kanto or Edifier, although all these brands are pretty good. But yeah, like for example, this HD5 looks really nice. This is what, $550. Okay, not the cheapest, but it's definitely, when you're talking about a nice audio system, it's not that expensive. 550 bucks for a powered bookshelf speaker system, has like, Bluetooth, aptX HD, and it looks as nice as it does. They don't even upcharge for the walnut model. I mean, this looks really nice actually. And yeah, honestly, Audio Engine stuff always sounds pretty good for the price. Their selection, they have like a lot of good selection as well. So, I mean, if you go to speakers, I think they have a whole bunch of different speakers, like not just bookshelves. They have like music systems. Let's see. Yeah, they have subwoofers, right? Passive speakers as well. So in general, I do like their selection a little bit better than Kanto's, but they're both pretty good. I would just recommend Audio Engines a little bit more because I do like their appearance a little bit better, and I think this sound quality. I think both of the sound quality is pretty good as well. So anyways, it's of good value. I think you'll get a lot out of an Audio Engine system, especially for what you pay for it. So that's why it has to be on this list. All right. I wouldn't say that they're the best performing speakers. Of course, there's better performing speakers if you go up the price category, but in terms of active speakers, Audio Engine is pretty up there. Okay, so I know it's kind of weird to have a tie in this video because then it's technically 21 speaker brands I'm putting on my list rather than 20, but I do have to put Edifier in this list as well. And I thought about Edifier a lot because I did mention Edifier when I was talking about Kanto, right? And I thought Edifier, Kanto, maybe they're on the same level, and I put Kanto in because they're Canadian brand and everything. But actually, Edifier, I actually like them better actually because now that I look at their products again, so they're Chinese company. They've been around since the 90s, and that doesn't mean that they can't make good speakers because even though they're the only Chinese company on this list, they make some really good value speakers as you would expect from a Chinese company. So actually, a lot of their speakers, they look and perform really well. So like S3000 Mark II is the one I'm looking at. This is their top of the line bookshelf speaker system. Most of their speakers are active speakers, and that's why I put them in this tied ranking with Audio Engine, because I do think that they're right up there with Audio Engine. I think in terms of aesthetic, I do like them better than Kanto. Kanto, like I said, has a really kind of boring vibe. Like this is Kanto stuff, right? It's kind of boring looking. Edifier, just like Audio Engine, has some like nicer looking stuff. You have the wood veneers on some of their speaker systems, and they are high performing speakers. So in terms of performance, they're right up there with Kanto and Audio Engine, and they make good value stuff. So just like Kanto and Audio Engine, they give you good performance. Oh man, look at that system. That looks like a really expensive system, right? But actually, these speakers, all of Edifier speakers, are roughly under. I think their most expensive speaker maybe $700, $800, but that's their most expensive speaker. They also make headphones, and even gaming speakers. I didn't realize this, but they make studio monitors. They make PA speakers, subwoofers, computer speakers, and gaming speakers as well, and gaming headphones. I mean, they make a whole range of stuff for audio. I'm focusing on and wireless speakers, of course, as well. Some really cool looking ones, actually, like this one. This is a really cool looking wireless speaker. Pretty cool design, and then this one looks pretty cool as well. Yeah, there's some pretty cool looking stuff. This is a kind of clock radio speaker, but let's focus on the bookshelf speakers. Even within their bookshelf speakers, they have some pretty nice looking designs. And yeah, like most of their speakers are going to be around $200 to $500. So I would say pretty affordable, pretty competitive with whatever Kanto and Audio Engine is offering at a good price. They look really nice. They perform well. They have a wide selection of different speakers depending on what you're looking for. Like even for gaming, they have some. I mean, like this is obviously gaming aesthetic, right? With the RGB lighting. I mean, basically whatever you're looking for, Edifier has. So I guess that's why I have to put on here. I guess they'll be competing with Razer and Logitech when it comes to gaming. But yeah, I do have to put Edifier on here. Initially I did not have them on the list, but later on I was like, huh, Edifier actually makes some pretty good stuff. I gotta have them on this list. So, anyways, for a powered bookshelf speaker system, I would recommend Edifier and Audio Engine, and then Kanto as well. Really depends what you're looking for, but I think these three are pretty nice for budget powered bookshelf speakers, and Klipsch later on we'll get to as well. But yeah, all these are pretty nice for budget powered bookshelf speakers. All right, so number 14 is going to be Acoustic Energy, which is a British company. So Acoustic Energy, there's going to be a lot of British companies on this list, FYI. I love British speakers. So anyways, Acoustic Energy, they offer a nice variety of products as well. Their most affordable is the AE100, which is this nice compact bookshelf system. Now, these retail for brand new for about $500, but if you can get them, I think I've seen them online regularly for 50% off. You can get these for $250. That's kind of a steal. These are quite good. For the size, and I think British speakers are generally pretty good at getting a lot of sound out of the small size. So yeah, there's just I think Acoustic Energy is just another example of that. Generally, nicely sized speakers, but you can get a lot of good sound, a good bass. I've heard out of the size. I haven't tried any Acoustic Energy speakers before, but I have heard that you get a pretty good bass out of the size, good volume out of it. And do have floor standers as well, and complete home audio systems, home theater systems with a center channel and everything. But they offer a whole range, 100 series, 300, 500, going all the way up to the Corinium, which is their top of the line model. So you know that Acoustic Energy isn't just into the affordable space, but they go all the way up into the high end space as well. So they have the whole spectrum. Now, the reason why they aren't higher on this list is because there are better performing speakers for the price, but that's not to say Acoustic Energy isn't good. That's why they're still on this list. Pretty decent option if you can get these on sale. I would recommend them. Now, if you at full price, I think there are a few other better options. That's why they're just number 14 on this list. Right. So number 13 is going to be PMC Audio. which is another British company that started in the early 90s. Now you guys might be wondering, okay, for British audio, there are a couple of brands I'm omitting from this list that you might have heard of, like Spendor or ATC or Harbeth. The reason why they're not on this list is because I do think they're quite overpriced. They're all trying to do the BBC speaker thing. Now, the BBC made a speaker monitor called the LS35A, which is really, really famous and popular for providing good near field performance, but a lot of these companies that try to copy that design make it, they're all handmade in the UK and stuff like that. They make it really overpriced. You're basically paying a lot of money to get that BBC monitor design, and in the British labor cost, of course. So for companies like Harbeth, okay, I understand that a lot of people like Harbeth, but I would not pay. Not only am I not going to pay MSRP, but once I saw Harbeth, even at half the price, I was not going to pay it because what you pay, that's still like 1,700, 1,800 US dollars for like a small studio monitor. That's still way too expensive. Now, PMC is kind of like that too. PMC also makes these monitors that kind of are derived from the BBC monitors. However, the reason why they're on this list instead of those other brands like Spendor or Harbeth is because they actually have some pretty interesting technology in them that are, kind of an evolution of what you would find. So if you go to the technology, what PMC speakers is most known for is the active transmission line. So the ATL technology. So advanced transmission line, sorry. So what this is that inside the speaker cabinet they have this little tunnel here. When they have to they have this tunnel system, and then they have a bunch of special foam padding to absorb certain frequencies. And basically, using this technology, they're able to get a significantly better bass response out of it for the size. So I've owned a PMC speaker before in the past. I've owned the DB1 Golds, and they did provide some pretty impressive bass for the size and good volume and everything. This kind of design you don't see very often in speaker companies. This transmission line design is what they call it. It's not very common to see that in a speaker company. Usually costs a lot of money to make. So yes, PMC speakers are expensive, just like with the other brands I mentioned, just like with Harbeth, Spendor, ATC. Yeah, PMC speakers are expensive. However, I would say that they are worth it because they have some really interesting technology that you don't find in other speaker brands. They have a whole line of speakers too. They have the studio range, near field, midfield, main monitors. You can see like this whole range of speakers. They have a whole bunch. Floor standers, bookshelves, they have everything. And yeah, and I would say that compared to the other companies I mentioned, yeah, PMC actually might be worth it because they do have some pretty unique technology. So that's why PMC is on this list. They have some really cool, interesting technology in their speakers going on. If you're really looking for something that's a studio monitor, and PMC speakers are used by a lot of recording studios, by the way, so they are professional equipment. You're looking for a good studio monitor, and you're looking for um, a good amount of bass and volume out of a small size and very good for near field like listening, then I think PMC audio is definitely worth your time. Now the reason that they aren't higher on this list is because they're expensive still. Like these speakers are like at least $2,000 and up, so that's why I cannot be higher on this list. I have to take value into consideration, but they do have cool technology in them, so they have to be on this list still. That's why I put them here. Okay, so number 12 on this list is going to be Bowers and Wilkins. Bowers and Wilkins is a fairly well-known speaker company. They're also British. I think they started in the 60s. So they've been around for a while. And their speakers are pretty nice looking. They also have a huge lineup. So you can see their flagship speaker is the Nautilus, which is a crazy looking speaker. But they also have, this also really cool looking speakers from the 800 series. They're generally very expensive when you get up in price here. So the 800 series, 700 series are quite expensive. They're known for separating the tweeter. So if you take a look at, for example, the 800 series, yeah, they separate the tweeter into its own kind of chassis above. So most speaker companies have the tweeter kind of integrated into the main cabinet. Not Bowers and Wilkins. Bowers and Wilkins is known for having the tweeter kind of separate from the rest of from the woofer and the rest of the body. Then they have more conventional looking designs, which is their more affordable 600 series. They're still not that affordable. So even their cheapest speakers are still like $900 a pair. For their performance, they generally tend to be pretty good. Although I have I think there's still better options. I put Bowers and Wilkins on this list because they do have some interesting design choices. Like yeah, having the tweeter be separately attached to the cabinet. So they and they have some really like just iconic designs like the Nautilus. So Bowers and Wilkins, I do have to put them on this list, but I can't put them too high because they're still not that. They're still pretty expensive. They're not that affordable. Even if you do get them, I do think they're better options for the price, which will be the brands up higher on this list. But anyways, I have to mention Bowers and Wilkins because they do have some cool technology in their speakers. I think the cheapest one is this their cheapest one? The 607 S3 bookshelves, $900 for a pair. Again, for this price. There's a lot of competition, honestly. Even with the titanium dome tweeter, I know Bowers and Wilkins has a lot of good technology, but yeah, there's there's a lot of competition at this price. One of them being ELAC. So ELAC's going to be number 11 on this list. ELAC is a German company. They make a whole range of speakers. This is just their bookshelf speakers alone. You can see how many models they make. The Debut 2.0 DB62 to the Elegant BS 312.2. And yeah, you can see just how many different speakers they make. Debut, the Unified. The Debut is their most popular lineup. Generally, I think ELAC speakers are really nice. They perform very well for the price. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything too bad to say about these other than that the design kind of looks boring to me. So kind of like a boring design. And I do think that when you're looking for value, there could be even better brands and more interesting brands to look at because I don't think that there's for technology wise, I don't think ELAC has anything too interesting that other brands don't have. And then their design is kind of boring, but they do have a wide range here, a good selection of speakers and not too expensive. The Debut series is generally affordable. They do have more expensive speakers as well, so they do have like a wide selection. So this is where it goes. It goes at number 11, just outside the top 10, because they do have a good selection. Um, nice, like good performance for the price. Just I don't think they have anything really special in terms of technology, and they look kind of boring to me. But yeah, ELAC, pretty good brand. You cannot go wrong with ELAC if you look for a, decently priced bookshelf speaker. Yeah, you can do a lot worse. All right, so number 10 on this list is Dyn Audio. This is a Danish company that's been making speakers since the 70s. I would say they're reasonably well known amongst audiophiles. So Dyn Audio makes a big lineup as well. So a lot of different selection. They make floor standers, they make bookshelves. You can just tell how many speakers they make just by the lineups here: Confidence, Consequence, Contour, Emit, Evoke, Special 40. Look how many lineups they have. So they have a wide range of different speakers. Now they go all the way from more affordable options like in the $500 range all the way up to the tens of thousands of dollars. They really are a full, like they serve every customer. I guess you can kind of consider like Paradigm in that aspect as well, right? Everything from the affordable entry level all the way up to the very very expensive levels. And generally, Dyn Audio speakers do perform pretty well. Again, the thing about Dyn Audio is I find their speakers like okay, this is a pretty cool looking speaker, but most of their speakers I don't really feel anything from them. It's like yeah, like the designs, I understand they have some nice technology in their speakers and everything. This design is very Scandinavian, so if you like that Scandinavian design, that's nice. Um, but yeah, like, mm, there's some speaker companies I like a little bit better up behind this list in terms of design, but in terms of the actual performance or the technology, I can't complain. Really, the only thing is they can be expensive. Like some Dyn Audio speakers can be expensive depending on what you're getting. And the design is just yeah, it's very Scandinavian, so it's very simplistic in that aspect. So it's not for me. I kind of want something that stands out a little bit more, but a lot of people like the Dyn Audio, the Scandinavian, simple design. So yeah, I would say that's the only thing about Dyn Audio. It's in my top 10 because they do have a lot of nice technologies and they have a wide selection. But yeah, I think for me, I prefer something that stands out a little bit more. to say. And also the fact that they could get pretty expensive depending on which speakers you're looking at. I would say maybe to the point of being a little bit overpriced. Okay, so next option on my list is number 9 is DALI, which is also Danish. Now this company stands for I believe this is Danish Audiophile Loudspeaker Industries. So they actually have audiophile in their company name, which is pretty funny. But just like with Dynaudio, they do have a large range as well. They have the Phazon, Oberon, Spectre, Core, Epicore, Epicon, Rubicon. Yeah, they have Opticon. They have a whole range. So just like with Dynaudio, they serve the entire range. They have very, very high-end speakers like the Core series. Like this is like really obviously a very crazy designed speaker, very high-end. Um, yeah, definitely looks like it's competing with Wilson and other really high-end speakers. But yeah, they go down to the Spectre, which is a more very affordable speaker. Now, I actually own a DALI speaker. I have the Oberon ones. And DALI does have some technologies as well, right? They have that metamaterial technology, wood fiber cones, actually. Yeah, they have was it the SMC material? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The SMC material, and they have the wood fiber cones, which kind of makes them look a little bit more distinctive. So I think when it comes to DALI, I would probably put them on the same level as Dynaudio. Now, DALI is actually more known for having good off-axis performance. Maybe their sweet spot isn't quite as good, but they do have good off-axis performance. So you don't have to be exactly in front of the speaker to hear its best. So that's a good thing. So they do talk about the off-axis performance of their speakers, which is nice. And I think it's probably this aspect and the fact that I do like that their appearance a little bit better than Dynaudio's that puts them ahead of Dynaudio. So yeah, generally DALI makes pretty nice speakers. There are brands that I like better than DALI, which is why it's still not is why it's number 9. But I like them better than Dynaudio, mostly because of the appearance. In terms of the performance, I'd say it's fairly similar to Dynaudio. In terms of the range, again, fairly similar to Dynaudio, but they have a huge range here. So yeah, all in all, I think it's just a preference thing. I just prefer a little bit more DALI over Dynaudio. Okay, so number 8 is going to be Focal. No, Focal is a French company. They've been doing business since the 80s, I think. And they have a huge lineup of speakers as well. Now, Focal is one of those companies, one of the few companies actually that's as well known for their headphones as they are for their speakers. So Focal is one of those companies that actually does both really well. But they came out with speakers first. Before they entered headphones, they were a speaker company. So this is their bread and butter is their speakers. Now they have very high-end speakers like the Utopia 3 Evo, as you can see here, very, very expensive looking, over-engineered speaker. And then they have, stuff like Vestia Theva, like, yeah, they have more affordable speakers too, but nothing is really that cheap. I would say Focal is generally known for being very, very high performing speakers. Everyone who's reviewed the speakers say they sound great. They're very reference sounding, just like with their headphones. Focal makes very reference sounding speakers. I believe this is their cheapest model, but even their cheapest model is quite expensive. So very well performing speakers. Very still they tend to be expensive, so they're not affordable. Their cheapest speaker is still like $1,000. So yeah, that's why I cannot put it all too high in terms of value, but in terms of the performance, in terms of the amount of range that you have available, a lot of different options. Yes, the Focal ranks pretty high. Basically, it's really just the price that kind of puts it down, and maybe if you don't like their sound signature, if you don't like their house sound, I know that Focal speakers can sound analytical maybe to some people, so or their headphones sound like that too as well, but that's really the only thing. And their design, I guess, is for the cheaper stuff, their design is a little bit bland on the bland side, but anyways, they are very high performing. One brand I didn't mention on this list that maybe some people know is Sonus Faber, and I think overall all the brands on my list is you can probably get a better performing speaker, than Sonus Faber for the same price. Although Sonus Faber might have better design. That's an Italian brand, by the way, Italian loudspeaker brand. But I think most of these speakers, especially I've wanted everything in my top 10, is going to outperform a Sonus Faber for the same price. All right, so yeah, that's my number 8. My number 7 is going to be pretty close to Focal. That's going to be KEF. KEF is a British speaker company. They've been doing business since the 60s, so they've been around for a long time. Just like with Focal, they're very high performing. A lot of technology built in. Especially they're well known for having UniQ drivers. So if you notice about their speakers, KEF speakers, they're very distinctive because the tweeter is actually built into the same kind of component as the woofer. That's the UniQ driver, right? KEF kind of has a patent on this, so no other speaker really does this. No other speaker company does this. So KEF's really unique. Has a lot of technology in their speakers, and they're renowned for it. So yeah, I mean, KEF's got to be on this list. They're a top 10 speaker company by any standard. They're very high performing. A lot of people rave about their performance. Personally, I've only owned the KEF LSX, which is a very nice speaker for the size, but I haven't owned their LS50 Meta, their bigger speakers I haven't owned. They make very high-end stuff, all the way up to the Muon, the Blade, very, very high-end stuff. But yeah, like really, I don't have anything too bad to say about KEF either. It's just that they're very nice speakers, very high performing, lots of technology. Just that they're expensive. KEF speakers tend to be pretty expensive. Just like with Focal, their cheapest speakers are like $1,000. So your barrier to entry is $1,000 at least. Yeah, when it comes to stuff like the Q150, I think they do have a little bit more affordable options than Focal though. So actually, yeah, it's not $1,000 because I think the Q150 is definitely, yeah, this is $350. My bad, they were on sale here, $600/350. So yeah, you still get their UniQ drivers even with this price. So yeah, I think this is why KEF is a little bit above Focal because it's a little bit more affordable if you can find their lower end stuff. The lower end stuff is a little bit more affordable than Focal's lower end stuff, so the barrier to entry isn't quite as high, but they do have very good performance. All of their speakers have good performance, and yeah, they have good technology and everything, and a large range of speakers. So yeah, in general, I think that's why KEF has to be on this list. So yeah, I think people probably know these days KEF more for their LS50 metas and their wireless systems, but their traditional speakers, their floor standing speakers are all really good. So anyways, if you can afford them, they're always a good recommendation. All right. My number 6 is going to be Triangle. Triangle is a French speaker company that's been around since I think the 80s or 90s. They're not quite as well known as KEF or Focal, not quite as well renowned as those two, but I like Triangle a lot. They have a nice selection of active speakers, not just passive speakers. So the Boya Active, I think, is pretty nice. Now, they make really nice looking speakers, in my opinion. I really like the design of Triangle speakers, and they're very well performing for the price. They make a whole range of speakers. So the Magellan, I think, or the Spirit, I think these are their flagship speakers, but I'm looking more at their entry level, more affordable options like the Boya series. A lot of people talked about the Bro 3s, Bro 2s. Both the Bro 3s and Bro 2s are pretty popular, and they're both really nice speakers for the price. The thing about Triangle is they tend to be a bit overpriced in Canada, but if you can find them in the US, they're like half price in the US, and it's a no-brainer. Like, if you can find these speakers, like, for the price that they sell at in the US, which is like almost half the price, yeah, they're really, really well performing. I had a pair of Triangle Bro 2s, I think, that I reviewed before on my channel, and I was surprised by the performance for the price. If you can find them at the US price, that is. Canadian price is a bit overpriced, but if you can find them at the US price, they're really good. One of my top recommendations, I would say, if you're looking for an active speaker or a passive speaker for the price, around $500, 500, I would say $600 ish. Triangle is one of my top recommendations. They're just really nice sounding speakers that look really nice, have a lot of features. Technology wise, they're not the same level as Focal or KEF, but hey, they're not in the same price range. They're not competing in the same price range. So, yeah. In general, they're more affordable than KEF and Focal, and they're really well performing. I would say you're not too far off from a KEF or Focal if you buy one of these, but you're paying a lot less. So that's why Triangle is going to be on this list as a heavy recommendation from me within its price range. Right, so number 5 on my list is Q Acoustics, which is a British brand. They're actually kind of a recent brand, I think. So they haven't been around too long, but from what I've seen, they've gotten a lot of rave reviews for their speakers, especially their both their active and passive speakers actually. So their selection you can see here 3010, 3020, 3030, M20. None of these speakers are like that expensive. They're all under $1,000 I believe, and they perform very well for the price. Let's take the Q Acoustics M20, which I was actually looking at for an active speaker. Generally, like I've read a lot of reviews on this. I've never actually tested a Q acoustic speaker, but I have read a lot of reviews and listened to a lot on YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah, generally, like they perform pretty well for the price, even compared to a lot of the other brands that I've mentioned already. So Q acoustics, I think. Yeah, if you're looking for either passive or active, I think these are some of the best value speakers that you can get. They really pack a lot of punch for their price. They even have floor standers as well. Not as familiar with the floor standers, but they do have floor standing speakers too. So yeah, I think in general, yeah, for the price that you're paying for Q Acoustics, which is generally very reasonable, you're getting a lot of performance for it. In terms of the appearance wise, I mean they're not like going to stand out too much, but at the same time they're not too bland either. They're generally very modern looking, so yeah, the appearance is alright. I like them a lot better looking than Kanto speakers actually, which are kind of boring looking, or even Audio Engine. So I think Q Acoustics do have the kind of their own design language. So yeah, it's not bad. But anyways, they're above a lot of the other bands I mentioned, like Focal and Kef. Triangle is pretty close with, but they're above Focal and Kef mainly because of the performance for their price, and their technologies are not going to wow you the same way that Kef and Focal would. But just like with Triangle, I think I'm ranking Q Acoustics farther ahead just because of their price to performance ratio. So yeah, if you guys are looking for very good, well-performing speaker for the price, yeah, Q Acoustics is going to be one of my top recommendations as well, both for the passive and active speakers. Like the M20 is definitely one of the best active speakers on the market right now. So, yeah, Q Acoustics, pretty good. So that's why it's in my top five. So number four on my list is Monitor Audio, one of my favorite speaker companies. They're also British. I love my Britfi, and yeah, I've had some experience with them before. I think they started in the 70s, I believe. Now, what puts Monitor Audio above like KEF and Q Acoustics, so these other British, and Wharfdale actually as well, these other British brands, is the fact that they have, first of all, they have as much technology as KEF does, so you can tell all their, maybe more so actually. They have MPD high frequency transducers, CCAM mid range drivers, RTDT bass drivers, like they have a huge amount of technology. So, technology is one of the things I rank my speakers on this list with, and Monitor Audio has the technology in spades. Like they have a lot of technology going on here. If you look at the Gold series, which is kind of their higher end series, not the highest end. I think the highest end is their what the high actually is the highest end. That's their flagship. Every speaker company's got to have one of these concept models. Platinum technically is their highest series, but yeah, Gold. I've actually owned the Gold 100 before. I was very impressed with the performance. Very beautiful looking speaker too. But even their cheaper models, I think right now I'm on the Bronze series. The Bronze series being probably their cheapest models. It still looks really good, performs very well. If you look at any reviews online, yeah, generally Monitor Audio speakers perform very well for the price. They look really nice. They have a lot of technology in it. Again, have no trouble recommending any of Monitor Audio speakers because they're just good. Um, don't have anything to say about that. The price, the thing is, they're not the cheapest speakers, but again, they're not too expensive either. So it really depends on what you're going for. Of course, if you're going for their higher end stuff like the platinum gold stuff, it's going to be expensive, but they also get more technology, right? You get see the gold series, for example, you get a Hive 2 port technology, a high frequency transducer, but I think for the Gold Series, you're mainly paying for what the luxury finisher of the wood finish, and then you're paying for the better CCAM technology that they developed here and the dynamic coupling filter. So, anyways, you go up the range, you pay for what you get. So Monitor Audio, again, I think the only thing is they're not exactly the cheapest, but I would say you get what you pay for. And they do give you a lot for what you pay for. So, and I also just love everything about them, the way they look and the technologies that they use. That's why they're number three. Number three on my list is Martin Logan. They're an American speaker company. I think they date back to the 1980s, I think. But yeah, they're well known for making electrostatic speakers, especially. So this is their flagship model, the Neolith, and you kind of can tell they're very unique. Um, Not a lot of speaker companies make electrostatics. Quad might be the only other company I know of. That's a British company that makes electrostatics. Not a lot of companies make electrostatics. Martin Logan's one of the few. So for technology, they rank very, very high because just not a lot of other speaker companies do this. So they're well known for their electrostatic speakers. These are all electrostatics, like most of their product line, electrostatics. But they do have a motion line, which is kind of a more traditional dynamic speakers. But they do have folded motion transformer, which is kind of their AMT technology. It's called the folded motion tweeters. So I own a couple of Martin Logans. They're actually my main speaker in my home theater system. So I'm pretty experienced with Martin Logans. Generally, I'm very satisfied with them, especially with the tweeters. So they're known for their folded motion tweeters, which is kind of their implementation of an air motion transformer. Their woofers are just kind of standard woofers, but they're most well known for their Obsidian folded motion tweeters and their folded motion waveguide, which they put on their newer models as well. This is some new technology that they put on the newer line. I don't have this with my Motion 15s, but yeah, it looks like they put in a waveguide and they put in a Kevlar mid-range woofer, which is nice. So they just keep increasing the technology on their speakers. So I have no problem recommending Martin Logan, even though they're not the cheapest brand, because you do get what you pay for. They have excellent technology. I love the appearance of Martin Logan, and they do have a pretty decent range as well. Not the highest range, but they do have a decent selection for everyone. Of course, they also make the mixed around. Actually, this is Motion 2i is their cheapest one. You can get it for as little as $200. So yeah, their entry level is okay. I would think there's probably better performing speakers for this range, but once you get up to like the Motion B10 and then Motion XT B100 and of course electrostatics, they don't have that many competitors. They're actually quite, you know, I think they're very performant in terms of their price range, and they offer a lot of different options depending on what you want. So yeah, they pretty much check all the boxes for me. Unique technology, really big, wide range of options, and price is okay. It's reasonable in appearance. Appearance is, I think they look pretty good, especially for their new series. They came out with this Obsidian folded motion tweeters and the newer stuff for their B series. So yeah, in general, I like Martin Logan a lot. Number two on my list is Wharfdale. They're a very historic British speaker company. I think they date all the way back to the 1930s. So yeah, they've been around a long time. So they have a lot of heritage. Wharfdale, the thing about them, I mean, you just look at their range, right? They have a lot of different speakers that they sell. Probably their Diamond range is the most popular and most affordable. Take a look at that. Like the Diamond series, 12.1, 12.2. Yeah, like these speakers, pretty affordable. Now they're not made in the UK, obviously. They're made in China, but still, like you can see all these awards. Yeah, Wharfdale. If you just look online, a lot of reviews. Now, I haven't really tested a Wharfdale personally, but just like with Q Acoustics, they're well known for having a lot of a punch for their price. So good price to performance ratio for Wharfdale. They also have kind of a vintage look going on, especially if you go to some of their other product lines. Um, let's see, I think I've seen, I think like KLH is another speaker brand I didn't mention, but yeah, Linton, for example, like, yeah, so some of these speaker designs really remind me of some of KLH's designs, which is another speaker company that's kind of relying on the vintage aesthetic. But yeah, Wharfdale, if you want this vintage aesthetic, they have a lot of these speakers that really look vintage. So they look pretty nice too. But if you want more modern looking speakers, they got that too. Look at the Evo series, for example. Yeah, Evo series, they got that more of a modern aesthetic, but still keeping that wood finish pretty nice. And they have a air motion transformer. So yeah, overall, I think Wharfdale gives some pretty good technology for the price. Generally very affordable range. So I do have to mention Wharfdale is that they're in my top five because most of their speakers are very good for the price, and they have good looks, good performance. They have a huge range of speakers. They really have everything. So I have no problem recommending Wharfdale to anyone. Um, yeah, they're just all around, I think, a pretty easy recommendation for me, no matter what you're looking for. The only thing is they don't seem to have much active speakers. Most of their speakers are passive, but they do have some active ones. There's a Diamond Active. But if you're looking for active speakers, I think Q Acoustics would probably, or Triangle would probably be better options. So just so you guys know, Wharfdale, they have a complete range of products. This is their flagship one, the Elysian series. So the Diamond one is probably the most popular and their most affordable series, but the Elysian series are their top of the line flagship speakers, and these ones are quite good, I've heard. Yeah, they have a air motion transformer. Like yeah, you can see like just how high class they are. These cost thousands of dollars. So what I like about Wharfdale is that they do cater to the complete range. So if you do, if you're on a budget, you can get the Diamond or maybe the Evo. The Evo is like more of a mid-range speaker, I guess. You can go up the whole product line, right? They have a whole bunch. If you want a vintage look, they got the Heritage series. A lot of the Linton and the Denton are very vintage looking. The Elysian is like top of the class flagship models. Yeah, so they really compete in every price range, and they really do well in every price range, I think. So I think this is why I really like Wharfdale. Yeah, I could take a look at their Evo series, for example. Yeah, this is another one has an air motion transformer. Evo series is not like too expensive. They'll compete with basically the $500 to $1,000 price segment. So yeah, and I think they do provide some pretty good value. And yeah, I really do like the Heritage series as well. Like, let's take a look at the Super Denton. Oh man, this name. Yeah, really like this is a very vintage looking speaker. So yeah, that reminds me of a Klipsch. So yeah, Wharfdale does have a complete range of great speakers. So I really do love them. I gotta have them in my top five. Yeah, they have something for everyone. Right, my number one is going to be Klipsch. So people might not be too surprised if they look at my channel. I have reviewed a lot of Klipsch stuff. Klipsch is an American speaker company. They date back to the 1940s, and they make a whole range of stuff. People might know them maybe more for their wireless stuff now. They have a bunch of wireless speakers. What I love about Klipsch is first of all, they're pretty affordable. Most of the vast majority of their speakers come under, I would say, uh, they're under 2,000 bucks, but most of them even under $1,000 bucks. And you can find them for a huge discount online usually. So if you look at stuff like the R50M, R40M, I've owned a lot of these, the R40, R40PMs. They have powered versions and they have passive versions of a lot of their speakers. All of them you can find for under discounted prices online. And Klipsch usually runs sales, so you can often find Klipsch speakers for a pretty good price because they run sales, and they're really not that expensive to begin with. Plus the fact that they look excellent. So the Klipsch speakers, just look at them; they look so vintage, and then like they just have a really nice appearance, which I've not seen in any other speakers. In terms of their performance and technology, they are known for having horn-loaded tweeters. So they're known for having track six horns, which is their horn loaded tweeter technology. So they're pretty unique in that aspect. Not a lot of other speaker companies use horns, but Klipsch does, and they've been doing that since basically since the time they were created as a company. And yeah, they have a lot of technology, very good price, generally very versatile. So they put the latest technologies in their speakers, and for their active speakers, I think I have Klipsch the fives, which have a HDMI ARC in it. So they do put the latest technology in their speakers, but they have that vintage design, which is just gorgeous looking to me. So yeah, I mean, just look. Okay, this is their top end speaker, the Jubilee 75th anniversary. I mean, wow, just a very unique looking speaker. That's a statement piece right there. Huge horn right there in the middle. So they have a lot of legacy designs, but they have a lot of designs with modern technologies as well. They make floor standing speakers, not just bookshelves. But all of them are really not that expensive. Like even their floor standers, you can generally find for around 1,000 or so. So in the bookshelves, I mean, you can find on sale for like 200 bucks, 300 bucks. I mean, this is very good entry level speakers, both for the powered and the passive speakers. So that's why Klipsch is my number one, is because they have a massive range of speakers. You can find them passive or active. They're both pretty good. They're pretty performant. I know like Klipsch speakers are not for everyone. Not a lot of people don't like the horn sound, and they think that they're too harsh in the highs or whatever. But I think they do sound really good for what they are, especially for the price that you pay for them. They have a decent amount of technology in their speakers, especially with the horn loaded technology, and they look really really nice. So I mean, I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of bad things to say about Klipsch. Uh, it's just that some people might not like the horn sound. That's really about it. But otherwise, I really love. I don't have any doubts recommending Klipsch to people. I think they're one of the first speaker brands I recommend to people because they just look really nice, they're really performant, and they're affordable. So yeah, I mean, I actually ended up selling some of my Klipsch speakers to my friends because I do want them to have Klipsch. I do think that Klipsch is a great brand, and yeah, I love their design, their performance, everything. So that's pretty much it. So another reason I had to put Klipsch number one is because they're kind of like a good gateway brand to more expensive speaker brands. So a lot of people cite Klipsch as one of their first, really decent pair of bookshelf speakers before getting into the more expensive stuff, or maybe just their first decent pair of speakers overall. I think that's kind of the case for me too. I mean, um, my first pair of decent speakers, I think I had a bunch of sound bars actually before I got into bookshelves. I think I had like Sony sound bars, I had LG sound bars, I had Samsung sound bars, Klipsch sound bars. But yeah, sound bars were basically my starting point, and then I got into bookshelves later because I think that's a natural evolution. Is if you're not satisfied with the performance of sound bars, then you go into a full home theater setup or a dedicated stereo setup. So then, yeah, I basically evolved from sound bars to bookshelves, and I think the Klipsch R40 or it was the R40M, R40PM was one of my first bookshelves that I had. So I was kind of the same. My first pair of dedicated bookshelf speakers, probably Klipsch, was one of the first for sure. So yeah, that's another reason I gotta have number one is because they're just a really good brand for to introduce a lot of people to good sounding speakers. They're not like the best sounding speakers. Of course, you can go up much higher than Klipsch, but for a lot of people, they're certainly a good introduction to audiophile, the audiophile bookshelf speaker world, I guess. That's my top 10, top 20 speaker brands ranking. Let me know what you guys think of my ranking in the comment section below. I just did a little bit of commentary on each brand. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think. If your favorite speaker brand didn't appear on this list, I'm sorry, but yeah, it's just my personal list. Let me know. As always, thanks for watching.